said that you're supposed to become better. If you look at your children, then it releases all the stress. You look at your wife's face and it releases your stress. And while he's thinking this, he tries to occupy himself with his own thoughts. So he says, Al-umru laylun ka'anni faqidun basari. He imagines himself as this individual that's blind. He says, my God, my age is the 50, 60 years old that I have lived. Now I see myself as a blind man, and the ages have passed before me as a blind individual. كأني فاقد بصري. And when I lose my sight, سيانا عندي طلوع الشمس والقمر. Meaning I don't know when the sun rises, nor do I know when the moon sets. To me, it's the same. A blind man cannot see any of that. العمر ليل كأني فاقد بصري سيانا عندي طلوع الشمس والقمر. He kept repeating it, and then while he's in this relaxation mode and calmness, he hears the noise, and he looks across the room. He tries to find where that noise is coming from. He checks, he sees his children sleeping. He checks on his wife. His wife is sleeping, and then as he's turning straight to his original point of return, he sees something in front of him staring him in the eye. And he finds himself breathless in front of this thing, and he cannot say anything. And the only words that came out of his mouth, he says to him, Man ant? Who are you? He forgot about the conversation that he was having with himself. He says, Man ant? He forgot the depression that he was in. He says, ما بالك لقد نغصت علي عيشي. You made my life uncomfortable. Buddy, you were already uncomfortable. Just came and gave you a reality check. لقد نقصت علي عيشي من أنت. And all I can see is he's looking at me, and he points his finger upwards. I go upwards where his finger pointed, and I see something in the horizon. And I hear somebody from the horizon says, I looked for an atom's worth of wind of air for you to breathe. I couldn't find it. Then I look back in front of me and I see him. He points down. He goes, I look down and I see another thing coming from beneath and says to me that I looked for the last morsel of food to see if you still have any, and I couldn't find it. Then I stare him in the eye, and he says, it is me, that I don't need an invitation. I said to him, who are you? How dare you barge in on me and my family? You have ruined my calmness. He says, I don't need an invitation. He says, I am here to take back what we have given you. Next thing, while one of my kids wakes up and I'm having a conversation, and because of my feelings towards my kids, I left this individual, regardless of how furious the situation is. I leave this individual, I look at my child, I try to attend to my child, and he starts crying. Next thing you know, I say, son, you're going to wake up the rest. And then, surely enough, it became a chain reaction where everybody else starts crying, and then my son starts actually lamenting, shouting and everything, and I'm trying to calm him down. Son, we have a guest. And then I look at this man and I see in front of me, I see something above my feet, and I'm looking at it and it's looking at me. This is my soul, and I'm looking at my children and I'm talking to my children, what's wrong with you? What's wrong with you? They're looking at me and they're crying, and he turns to them and he says to them, ما لكم ما ظلمناه فتصيحون ولا اعتدينا عليه فتبكون. We haven't oppressed them in order for you to cry, nor have we did anything wrong in order for you to lament. نحن وأنتم عبيد رب واحد. We are, me and you are the servants of one Lord. But of course my children couldn't hear him. He turns back to me and continues with his situation. And next thing you know, I feel my body being turned, being moved, and he's still looking at me. And my body's being turned, and I look, my family members, more family members are walking in. And I remember back in the olden days when I used to read this dua for one of the imams, and says, Allahumma, and I'm trying to remember the words of Allahumma. Please, Allah, make me remember them. I think I'm in that stage. Allahumma, Allahumma, Allahumma arhamni sari'an ala al-firash tuqallibuni aydi ahibbati. Allah, please, arhamni, have mercy upon me when I'm on my bed. Tuqallibuni, I'm being felt by the hands of my family. وتفضل علي ممدودا على المغتسل تغسلني صالح جيرتي. And Allah, please be more bountiful upon me, because now I see myself, although this person is looking at me, I see myself on the washing table and my neighbors are washing me. I thought I told you that the neighbor cannot wash me. I want you to wash me. What's going on now? Everybody's going against my will that I wrote. تغسلني صالح جيرتي وتحنن علي منقولا قد تناول الأقرباء أطراف جنازتي. And I'm looking now, the neighbors, the relatives came in, and I'm looking at myself. Next thing you know, I'm in a coffin and my relatives are carrying me above their necks. قد تناول الأقرباء أطراف جنازتي وجد علي منقولا قد نزلت بك وحيدا في حفرتي. Allah, I have no more room but to say these small words before they throw me in there. This is the last chance that I have to clarify myself. وجد علي منقولا قد تناول الأقرباء أطراف جنازتي وجد علي منقولا قد نزلت بك وحيدا في حفرتي. I'm coming down by myself. They have done something for me. وارحم في ذلك البيت الجديد غربتي. Please be merciful with this new house, because I'm going to be a stranger away from everybody. And surely enough, everybody walks away. Yet I'm looking at this man, I still see him. I'm looking at the soul, and my soul, you've lived with me. You were within the confines of me. How could you leave me? And then I hear a noise, and the noise says, يا ابن آدم أين لسانك الفصيح ما أسكتك. Son of Adam, where's your ever eloquent tongue? How silent you seem. وأين صوتك الشجي ما أخرسك. How about your beautiful voice? You're mute. وأين بدنك القوي ما أضعفك. Where's your strong body? You seem so weak. And I'm still looking for that voice. أين ريحك الطيب ما غيرك. Where's your beautiful scent? What has changed you? Who's saying this? أين مالك الكثير ما أفقرك. Where's your beautiful wealth? You seem to me you're poor. أين مالك الفقير ما أفقرك. And then I see a different man walks in. He looks at me. He's got something in his hand ready to write. Calls out my name. Yes. Says, who are you? Who am I? The hours that I just lived made me forget who I was. I totally forget who am I. And then it's like a lifetime of memories trying to reiterate to myself, who am I? Who am I when I was 10 years old? Who am I when I was 20? Who am I? He opens up a survey of questions and starts coming down with these questions. And I'm looking at this man and he's saying, oh, you better not mess up with the answer. He looks at me and I'm looking downward and he says to me, what is the real definition of a woman? What is the real definition of a woman? I said, caring. He said that caring, but it was destroyed by man. He says to me, what is the definition of man? I said, mercy, revived through a child. He says, what's the real definition of a child? He says, innocence, destroyed by the elders. He says, what's the definition? I'm surprised I'm answering. He says, what's the definition of elders? I said, piety. They're supposed to be pious. They're supposed to be more wise. Piety, but they're lacking manhood. What's the real definition of manhood? I look and say, wisdom. Wisdom's supposed to be full of love. He says to me, what is the real definition of love? I say, motherhood. Motherhood, it comes with unconditional tears. Because nobody loved me like my mother. Not my wife, nobody loved me like my mother. With unconditional tears. What's the definition of tears? He says, what's the real definition of tears?